You have to be willing to make a sacrifice before you're going to learn something. You know, one of the experiences I've had in my life, fairly commonly, in a variety of different ways, this is especially true when I was paying a lot of attention to my dreams, which I did for about 15 years, I guess, something like that. Now and then I would feel like I'd learned some things and had sort of consolidated them, and then before I went to sleep I'd think, okay, I'm ready to learn something else. And I didn't say that without trepidation, and because usually when you learn something, you know, it's not that pleasant. And perhaps what you'll learn is in proportion to your willingness to make a sacrifice. And I really do believe that. I do believe that as well, because I also think that if you commit to something, that means that you don't do a bunch of other things, right? So that's the sacrifice of all those other things. You commit to it and you set your sights on it. If you really commit to it and you get the sacrifice right, so to speak, then the probability that that thing will be successful vastly increases. And I think that that's also not a naive way of thinking or a foolish way of thinking. My experience has been that that's the case. And so I do think that we learn in trepidation, and that most of the time if you have to be laid low before the new revelation can make itself manifest. And I think that's also what happens to people often in psychedelic experiences when they have a bad trip, is they don't get through the bad part of it. And maybe that's because there's so much mess in their lives. Now, I'm speculating, but it's informed speculation. There's so much mess in their lives that the altered state of consciousness makes manifest that it's like a little trip through hell, but the mess is so complete and comprehensive and all-pervading that there's no way they can get through it. Now, if they could get through it and started to sort those things out, then, you know, there would be perhaps what would you call it? A compensatory positive revelation at the end. But the first thing is, if you want to learn something, is that you're going to encounter, well, you have to figure out what's wrong before you can figure out what wisdom you need next to guide yourself. And that's no laughing matter, right? And so I think that that's what this refers to, because you usually learn something about why you're wrong. And the deeper the thing that you learn, the more you learn about why you're wrong. And there's a death that's associated with that, because then you have to let that part of you that's wrong die, and that's the sacrifice.